All right, good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody has a great Monday morning. I'm going to start my computer going and I have two computers going at the same time. So definitely there's a lot that goes on into doing a Facebook Live or a podcast. Over the weekend I met some individuals that actually listen to my podcast, and so I appreciate them as well. So good morning. So today is Monday, October 23rd. I brought out a little Halloween mug today. It's Witch's Brew. It's a cute little coffee mug that I got to celebrate the holiday of, I guess it's not really a holiday, but Halloween. I can't believe that October is rolling right along, and we are looking at veto session starting tomorrow. So that's quite the tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's and then next week is Halloween, and then we're rolling into November and December, and then the year is over. It's been an incredibly quick year. Something that I just wanted to share is I know a couple of people have asked, and I appreciate that. My son is back in port. He did a 4-month deployment floating around the Pacific. And I know when I was in the military, I used to sign up for Stars and Stripes. It was a newspaper back then. Now it's online, but it talks about what's going on in the military. The military reads it. And my son, I was Zooming with him. Now that he's back at port, we can Zoom with him. And I was Zooming with him on Saturday night, which is Sunday morning his time. So 8 o'clock Saturday night is 10 o'clock Sunday morning. And he said that he mentioned that his ship was reported in Stars and Stripes. So I had to look it up because it is still online. And the article talks about Chinese aircraft swarm Taiwan defense zone for the 4th day. And that's pretty much what my son was doing out there in the Pacific and monitoring the Taiwan Straits. So there was a surge of military activity in the Taiwan Strait continued, and this says it continued on Wednesday. The date of this is back in September. But I thought that was pretty interesting because they talked about dozens of aircraft crossed the waterway median line, according to Taiwan's National Defense Ministry. So Taiwan monitored 35 aircraft, including fighter jets, military transport, unmanned aerial vehicles, and surveillance aircraft, 28 of which entered the island's southwestern air defense identification zone. So what does this mean at that point in time? Taiwan asked its own fighter jets, warships, and missile defense systems with responding with regards to being on alert. So they were reporting, and they reported that China's heightened activity is probably in response to the U.S. guided missile destroyer USS Ralph Johnson, which is the ship my son was on, and the Canadian frigate HMCS Ottawa transitioning the strait together on Saturday. That's what they were talking about. That was reported from a director for international relations at the Prospect Foundation. So they are founded in Taipei. So the Pentagon is said in this article to be monitoring the situation and urged Beijing to cease its military, diplomatic, economic, and legal pressure against Taiwan. So the U.S. and Canada transit this week was in accordance to international law. They were operating safely and responsibly in the seas and consistent with international law. That's what the spokesperson for the Pentagon said. So if you're not in tune with what's going on across the ocean, China considers the 110-mile-long Taiwan Strait to be its territorial waters. And Beijing's actions back in September were intended to back up that claim. Beijing also considers Taiwan which is a functional democracy, by the way, but they consider Taiwan to be a breakaway province that must be reunified to the mainland. So there's tensions out there between China and Taiwan. The Taiwan also tracked what's called the Shandong, that's China's first domestically built aircraft carrier, as it passed about 60 nautical miles southwest of Taiwan's southernmost point on Monday, and then continued onto the Pacific Ocean, the Western Pacific Ocean, back in September. So it's pretty interesting. They said that 8 Chinese warship in 2 groups passed through the Miyako Strait, and then that is the international waterway that links the East China and the Philippine Seas, as flanked by the Japanese islands of Miyako and Okinawa. So there's also an upcoming presidential election in Taiwan in January, and they're saying that that could be another motive for China to step up military activity. So I thought that was really interesting that my son's ship was mentioned in Stars and Stripes. I do get an email update with Stars and Stripes pretty much in my email once a week, I think. And definitely, I thought that's pretty interesting. So I know that there's focus on other issues in the world, but there's also tension between China and Taiwan, and and my son's right there. So, but he's back in port right now. The ship might go out again. We're not really sure, but definitely that's just the news that I got to touch base with the guy. It's amazing how Zoom works so far away, but yet he was clear and back in his room and relaxing and getting ready to do all the other stuff that he does over there with his ship. So thanks for the couple people that reached out, asked about him. And he seems to be doing well. And he had some really fun stories. He ported in a couple places and tried some new food. So it was quite the interesting experience with him. So good morning, Bonnie and Bob and Sally. Thanks for joining us this morning. And we will go on to what is our update today with regards to Springfield, with regards to what's going on this week. So let me pull up some notes here. And I know some people think I do this all from memory, but I do have a couple notes that I pull up on my computer so I can follow it. Again, we're returning to veto session. I'm going up today. It starts tomorrow. And it's going to go through Thursday. And then we're also going to be in veto session November 7th, 8th, and 9th. So we're looking at the gubernatorial vetoes. It's not always clear what the other reps are going to do with regards to the veto, but there are bills in position. So if we're going to look at the list of vetoes, I've talked about this before. Total vetoes, which means the governor just completely struck this down. Senate Bill 76, which was Senator Rezin and Representative Yednock, removes the moratorium on building nuclear plants. Senate Bill 1515, which is Senator Cervantes and Representative Delgado, adds restrictions and limitations to the use of the E-Verify system to ensure privacy for workers and ensure a worker can take unpaid leave if there's an issue with the verification. House Bill 3645, that was Representative Rashid and Senator Villavam, requires religious food options in schools. A mandatory veto, which means a veto that that the governor lined out a portion of. House Bill 2507, that was a bill I presented. That was my bill and Senator Villanueva's bill. It was a property tax language, and there was some language in there with regards to reduced taxes on certain nursing homes. So we're looking at that. There's a lot of things in that bill, help with veterans and very good legislation in that bill. So definitely we're going to look at all our options with regards to that bill. House Bill 2878, Leader Hoffman and Leader Castro. It's a procurement omnibus bill. The mandatory veto removes authorizations for public-private partnerships for local transportation projects. And then House Bill 3445, Leader Walsh and Senator Stettleman, was an energy bill And the administrative veto removes a provision allowing Ameren to have the right of first refusal. So those are items that are going to be on there. There are other legislative items that were filed that we may or may not look into. House Bill 4148, it removes the current prohibition on legislative staff from joining a union and creates a mechanism for the staff to form a union. Several years ago, I filed a bill to do this. It wasn't as extensive as House Bill 4148 is, and so I am happy that our staff is able to form a union. I have been advocating for that for many years. Senate Bill 382 is a Senate bill to clarify the definitions in the Civil Remedies for Non-Consensual Dissemination of Private Sexual Images Act. Senate Bill 384 amends Electric Vehicle Charging Act. Senate Bill 385 allows for quick take proceedings for the purchase of expanding and redeveloping Springfield High School. That does have to go through the General Assembly. Senate Bill 508 provides that unless otherwise required by federal law, an employer shall not voluntarily enroll in the E-Verify program. So this is a bill that was filed to try to correct some of the issues with the bill that the governor vetoed. Senate Bill 690 validates certain tax levies for community mental health boards. Senate Bill 767 requires all hearing instruments offered for sale to be accompanied by a 30-day business day return privilege. And then Senate Bill 2588 clarifies what information notaries must retain for purposes of petitions. Also with that, we are working on filing a pension bill. I've talked about the pension bill before. Cleaning up language with Tier 2. We have a Tier 2 pension system right now that is 67. You cannot retire until 67 if you have 10 years of service. What we had was a lot of testimony with regards to not being able to retain or hire new employees because our pension system is woefully below those of our neighboring states. So we adjusted that to give a tiered system. So if you reach the age of 62 and you have 35 years of service, you could retire 64 with 20 years of service and 67 with 10 years of service. We're retaining that. We're also in violation of what's called the safe harbor provision with regards to Social Security wage base. And, we were not complying with federal law. So we comply with federal law in this bill. We also close out and stop General Assembly members and judges from getting their own special pension. They're going to get, if they choose to, be in the same pension as the employees, along with some reciprocal language in there for our downstate police and fire. And then we're looking at what's called a deferred retirement option plan, which is a 3-year pilot program for our first responders, our police and fire. And so we're looking into those changes and should be filing a bill hopefully today. So that's also going to be on the docket. The House Ethics and Elections Committee hearing on Wednesday, they heard from the State Board of Elections, the State Board, Chicago Board of Elections, and the Illinois Association of Clerks and Recorders. The State Board of Elections reiterated that a hack of the state's voter registration database is unlikely, and discussed the Cyber Navigator program, which trains election authorities' offices to guard against security breaches. So that was on Wednesday. So that was last week. We have some hearings coming up in Springfield, Senate executive, House executives on the 24th, legislative audit on the 26th. On November 2nd, which happens to be my birthday, is the House Judiciary and House Cybersecurity Data Analytics IT subject matter hearings. It was announced over the weekend that Leader Kelly Burke is not seeking re-election. She is the chair of the Revenue Committee. She has been in the General Assembly for 14 years, and she's going to fill out her term. So definitely, it's been an honor and privilege working with her. I look forward to working with her next year, but she is not seeking re-election. A lot of people, I think, don't understand that this job, going back and forth to Springfield, is demanding, and Representative Burke, rightfully so, wants to spend more time at home and cutting back a little bit. So we can't blame her for that. It is quite the drive. So shifting gears just a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit of something fun. I always like to put something fun into my presentation. So Illinois students, grades K through 12, they can enter a statewide art contest sponsored by the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum and the State Board of Education. So the winner will be recognized at an Illinois State Board of Education board meeting. A framed copy will be hung at the board office, and they will have his or her artwork displayed in the museum. So if you want information with regards to that, send me an email, let me know, and I can certainly send out and post on Facebook and make sure people are aware of this art contest that is going on with regards to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Museum. Sounds really cool. I am not of an art kind of person. I can barely draw stick figures, but I am always amazed at the talent of our youth in our schools when I have the opportunity to go to the art display days in the schools in my area. Also, on November 14th, the Department of Innovation and Technology is holding a supplier day. So prospective vendors can hear updates on the department's strategy direction and how they can participate in contracting. We have what's called, they're calling it a electrification boot camp. So the heavy duty electric vehicle and medium duty electric vehicle, they're looking at that through the Electrification Coalition's policy boot camp. So participants will discuss advancing Illinois' commitment to fighting climate change with transitions to zero emission vehicles. So the Electrification Coalition is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. So again, we're having that coordination between Washington and the state and working how we can work to improve things. The Illinois Housing Department Authority and the Local Initiative Support Corporation launched the Next Generation Capacity Building Initiative, Next Gen. It's a new program designed to expand the talent pipeline and increase diversity within the housing development field and related industries. So Next Gen provides training, technical assistance to expand access to pre-development financing and housing resources with a focus on reducing barriers to entry for developers of color in the low-income housing tax credit program. So there's a lot going on. Officials from the state and the city of Chicago traveled to the Mexico border to learn about a process of resealing asylum seekers. They met with federal officials to request assistance, coordinating with the hope of slowing down and working with the migrants that are here. So our Department of Human Services, Acting Secretary Dulcie Quintero, Chief Homelessness Officer Christine Haley, and our representatives from the governor's office. And I read a bit of a report on that. I think they made some really good connections and got a lot of good information from there. It was written, I saw online that, just because, like Chicago and Illinois is a welcoming state, at the end of the day, it's common decency to help these people. Being a welcoming state and having a welcome center doesn't automatically obligate us to help people. It really doesn't. But we are a state that's compassionate, that respects people, that's want to do the best that we can. And that means helping these individuals that are being bused or flown into the area by these other states. So I think that delegation, from what I read, they got a lot of good information. And from what I'm hearing from some of the business communities is that the bulk of some of these asylum seekers are from Venezuela. The federal government is allowing work permits for the individuals from Venezuela. And I know that the business community is looking forward to filling some of the gaps in their workforce with these individuals as well. So it's going to take a while, but I think Illinois is doing a good job. We are looking at Medicaid now. During the COVID, redeterminations were put on hold. And so redeterminations just means that if you are on Medicaid, you need to reapply to make sure that the situations in which you are on Medicaid still apply today. So Illinois is one of the lowest Medicaid disenrollment rates around the states of the nation, which means that that individuals that were on Medicaid, filled out all the paperwork and continued to be on Medicaid for reasons various reasons. Our Medicaid population is mostly children, individuals with disabilities, and seniors, frail seniors. And so that's the bulk of our Medicaid group. And we redetermined them, and they are still, I know, but they're still in need of assistance, the children and the individuals with disabilities. So 11% of individuals were disenrolled, but this was mostly due to not filling out their paperwork. So if you got paperwork in the mail to redetermine for Medicaid, please fill it out and send it back in. DCO, that is our Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, has 2 tourism grants, Tourism Attraction Grant Program and Tourism Private Sector Grant Program to really generate tourism. And then the state treasurer's office, my good friend Treasurer Frerichs, announced that the state in September saw nearly $118 million in investment earnings for the state investment portfolio. So he is the chief investment officer for the state. We got another $86.7 million in gross investment earnings for other units of government that take part in the Illinois Fund's local government investment pool that operates out of his office as well. So we do get revenue from income taxes, corporate income taxes, sales taxes, but we also do have our chief financial investment officer, the state treasurer, investing funds that we have in our savings accounts to get a little bit of return on investment on that. And I have to say, $118 million in investment earnings is a good month. They announced it in September, so I think that's a wonderful initiative for the state of Illinois. And Treasurer Frerichs, keep up the good job. What we're also looking at is the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts. So we, again, worked with the Bureau of Justice Assistance. We have a grant. It's as part of the Adult Treatment Court, which supports projects to improve, enhance, and expand adult treatment courts statewide. So again, this is another partnership with the federal government. They award us grants, and then we award grants into the community. Talking about another constitutional officer, the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, his office was responsible for securing a conviction of individuals from Integrity Medical and Physician Supplies, a medical equipment company, that submitted fraudulent Medicaid claims to the state for diabetic supplies that were never provided. So the individuals that defrauded the Illinois Medicaid program for nearly $685,000 were sentenced by Cook County judge to nearly 6 years in prison. So Attorney General Kwame Raoul, keep up the good work, making sure that we're bringing integrity and keeping individuals that shortchange the state, defraud the state, held accountable. And then the Supreme Court has some opinions that were filed last week. If you are a lawyer and you are interested in the Supreme Court findings, they are the cases of People versus Pacheco, Givens versus the City of Chicago, People versus Lane, and the People versus Lighthart. So those opinions are available online. And then what else is going on? I mean, there's a lot going on with Veto next tomorrow, but it's not really, I mean, it's a lot of phone calls and connecting with people and working in the back end. But what we're looking at and what the Illinois Principals Association is working at, if you notice in these updates, we have a lot of associations that work with the state, that work with Springfield. And that's important. And I was just talking to an individual the other day and I asked them, how are you working with your statewide association? Because a person brought an issue to my opinion, asked my opinion on an issue, and they kind of looked at me, and I said, well, there is an association for this subject that is in Springfield, and they were like, oh, well, I'm not really familiar with Springfield, but I'll reach out to the association. So there is an Illinois Principals Association that is looking at the rise of artificial intelligence, and they have and they look at the benefits and the challenges for schools. And so The Illinois Principals Association created a draft of a student handbook policy regarding the use of artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is not a substitute for schoolwork. That requires original thought. Of course, they're not allowed for taking tests, completing assignments, creating projects, writing papers, without, those kind of things. That constitutes cheating and plagiarism. We're looking at what was set out by the U.S. Department of Education, following that approach, and looking at this rise in AI technology. So overall, we need to have the right policies in place, and we need to start looking at this changing dynamic with regards to the state and our schools. We always looking at what's on the docket as well is our healthcare worker shortage. If you look over pretty much nationwide, it's a big issue. And in 1 year, 21 to 22, more than 145,000 healthcare providers left the industry. And I believe that's nationwide, but it's still a huge number. Physicians have the highest number of exits. They're leaving. Nurse practitioners, and a lot of the reasons is just the pandemic just wore a lot of people out. Sticking along with health, of course, we get a lot of reports. I say that all the time. Illinois is among the leaders in the nation when it comes to legislative initiative aims at reducing health disparities and inequities. So we're working hard to make sure that everybody gets access to their health care, and that needs to continue. There's still a lot more work to be done because, we still have infant mortality, and we have a high infant mortality rate, and that with babies that are born to moms on Medicaid. The biggest factor is prenatal care. So we need to make sure that, individuals get the prenatal care that they need, and try to lower that infant mortality rate as well. And then keeping on with health, our health insurance is going up, and employer health insurance rose this year at the fastest pace since 2011. So we're going to be looking at that as well. Finally, as I mentioned before, Illinois is an agricultural state, and the U.S. Agricultural Secretary visits Illinois. So U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack visited Illinois and spoke about agriculture's struggles and what's being done to make things better. He said the U.S. has lost about 438,000 farms since 1981, and is looking and working with farmers for green solutions. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture has incentivized the market to buy from farmers using sustainable practices. The secretary said that this can open doors for companies wanting to purchase carbon offsets, and this is a 36 billion gallon industry that is yet to be tapped into. So during his visit, he stated that the legislative session, the big priority for him, of course, is the Farm Bill, which right now there is still no Speaker of the U.S. House. So I don't really know if we're going to have a Farm Bill anytime soon, but definitely it's something to look at. In our area, as I mentioned before, this is pretty exciting. There's a $1.2 million federal grant that we are working with that supports the east branch of the DuPage River Trail. So that's pretty interesting. And then we do need to give a wonderful homecoming to Judith and Natalie Rehan. They're the mother and daughter from Evanston that were held hostage by the Hamas. Again, Hamas is in the wrong with attacking Israel. And I do believe that there are wrongs being done by Israel by cutting off food, water, electricity, and access to innocent individuals in the Gaza Strip. It's still a horrible situation, and definitely one that that we hope can be resolved quickly before more loss of life happens on both sides. So other than that, I know this was a quick update. October as LGBTQ History Month. Just to give you a little bit of an update with that. In 1924, the first American gay rights organization, the Society for Human Rights, is created by German immigrant and Chicago resident Henry Gerber. In 1994, Thomas Chola is the first openly gay elected official in Illinois when he becomes a Cook County Circuit Court judge. In 2001, Illinois recognized hate crimes against gays, lesbians, and bisexual. In 2011, civil unions and adoption rights were secured for LGBTQ people. In 2013, marriage equality was passed, signed into law. In 2016, conversion therapy and discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity were banned in Illinois. So that's a little bit of LGBTQ history. And then finally, I realize this was a bit of a short update, but again, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of work, but these are like the overview updates. But finally, next Monday, I'm going to be joined by a guest, Dr. Sandy Goldberg, founder and chairman of a Silver Lining Foundation. Now, a Silver Lining Foundation is a nonprofit that provides cancer research information, quality of life services, and mammography to people who might not otherwise have them. So she's going to talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month and a little bit on what we need to know, both men and women, because breast cancer can affect, as cancer can affect both genders. There is a quite the misnomer there, but it can happen to pretty much a lot of individuals. And certainly I'm looking forward to what she has to say. So that would be next week's Facebook Live. If there is a guest speaker that you would like on our Facebook Live outreach, let us know. We can make the call. We can get the person on. Definitely, I think that it's very informative, and I think it gives a little bit of a spin when individuals pop on our Zoom and talk a little bit about things that you might not be aware of, or to give you a little bit more information that you might appreciate. So with that, I don't see any questions in the chat with regards to the Facebook, and I am going to be hitting the road shortly to Springfield so that I can get there early, work on my pension bill, and several other pieces of legislation I'm working on, the governor's veto, and we will chat again on Monday. If you need anything, just drop me an email, send me a text, call the office, or occasionally I do see Facebook messages, not often, but you can send a Facebook message if you don't need it responded to right away, because things get really busy when I'm in Springfield. So with that, I hope everybody has a great week, this final week before Halloween. My Halloween decorations just went up this weekend. I was a little bit delayed, but I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Finally, the Bears won. So let's celebrate the small things and enjoy that win, and we will talk soon. So take care, everybody. Have a great week. Stay safe. COVID's still out there. Hand sanitize, 6 feet. And if you need to wear a mask, please do. But everybody have a great week ahead. Take care.